VEEM, as many of you know, is a precision marine products manufacturer. We have a lot of disruptive technology. We're based in WA, and we've been around for 50 years. So we have two main products, which is marine gyrostabilizers and propulsion systems. We have significant cross-selling potential for both of these products to existing defence and propulsion customers, and it's why we chose gyros to follow on from propellers, is because we did have the synergies of the same distribution path to market. So we have a track record of many years, of 50 years in fact, of trading and a little bit of background. So we have a very robust precision engineering business which underpins the gyro and propulsion growth. And this is a position of strength that we've been, I guess we use as our platform. It obviously takes a lot of money and a lot of time to develop a new product. So by having an engineering company, a profitable one that's been going for so long, means that we're not taking a great deal of risk in developing these new products. And a good example of that is the ongoing submarine work, and we've just recently picked up a $9 million order for submarine components over the next 2 years on top of their regular maintenance orders. So that will give us probably between 8 and 10 million a year for the next couple of years of submarine work. And the stabilization market, which we're moving into, we've chosen particularly because it's a very large addressable market, and there is really no other player in the large gyroscope, the gyrostabilizer market. This is very important for us. The reason gyrostabilizers are so important is it is a piece of machinery which sits inside the vessel hull and reduces the rolling of boats and ships in waves using gyroscopic forces, laws of nature. And the beauty of it is it sits inside. There's nothing outside of the vessel. It has got no drag in the water, and it reacts to nature by itself. There's no particular tricky sensing of the vessel movement we need to do, therefore no delays. So we can also have a gyro which will work, and it works from rest until flat out. So there's no dead period. Whereas the outdated zero speed fins have some jerky stabilization at rest, but they don't operate at all when you go into gear. And then when you get to about 12 knots, 13 knots, 14 knots, you'll start to see the fins start to work. And from that point upwards, they're reasonably effective to about 19 knots. And then after that, they provide so much drag that they're quite detrimental to the performance of the vessel. So this is really bringing in a new technology, which is more automobile as against horse and buggy. So the traditional product we have, which is our propellers, which is again a disruptive technology, we've developed a modern manufacturing product as against what used to be a hand-finished product in decades gone by. A hand-finished means there is no precision in that component, which limits the speed at which they can operate at. They also have a problem where, being a casting, they're traditionally made from patterns, which means they generally make a range of patterns, and you can choose a propeller from that range. And they're very expensive. You need about 1,000 propellers to do a modest product range. So we've developed techniques which are patternless, which means we can give a perfect design to suit that vessel. It costs us no more to manufacture. And then by CNC machining them, we end up with a precision machined part, which is replicable. On top of that, we have our interceptor, the interceptor program, which enables you to tune the propeller pitch underwater on the vessel, which saves generally more than the value of the propeller on each boat they launch. Okay, next one, please. So we've just made a sale of the world's largest gyro to Damen Shipyards. Many of you will have heard of Damen Shipyards. They're the second largest shipbuilder in Europe. They happen to be the world's largest small shipbuilder. They produce nearly 200 vessels a year around the globe, and we did extensive trials with them in Amsterdam with our second largest model in 2018, and that enabled us to secure this order in early 19 for the VG1000 SD, which is our biggest unit. To give you some idea, the most powerful Ferrari on the market puts out around 800 Newton meters of torque. This unit puts out 1 million. So it's the thousands, the magnitude is 1,000 times the torque of the most powerful Ferrari engine. So it's a fairly big unit. It's a 20-ton unit. It's about a 3-metre cube in size, and it will be going into Damen's first new crew supplier boat, which carries 150 people at around 50 knots and will be used to replace helicopters in the oil and gas industry, which is currently the oil and gas industry's most dangerous area of their business is transporting crews by helicopter. So we've now, that we've finished this, is now under test. We believe that it validates the use of gyros in larger vessels, and we believe we can go up to about 3,000-ton vessels with our technology. And at that point, the roll period of the vessel starts to become quite large, and that would make the technology for us have to change and cater for that market. And at this stage, we are not approaching that market. The volume is quite small, and the cost becomes significantly higher. We combined this 1,000 launch with the opening of our new facility, and in Canning Vale we have now a 4,000 square metre assembly hall for gyrostabilizers, which is significant in that it will significantly reduce the time required to assemble gyrostabilizers and bring the GPs up to the range that we were looking for. So we can also produce up to $100 million worth of gyrostabilizers in that building. Okay, next slide, please, Simon. So there's a significant addressable market that we believe we can now work toward selling to. To explain where we are in the process, we've spent a number of years selling the technology. So we've had our test boat in Europe. We've been fielding lots of questions that have been, what is a gyrostabilizer? How does it work? Where does it fit? What does it cost? Whereas we've now passed that point, and now we are in the stage of saying, how much, when can I get one, and selecting the right one for a vessel. And we've developed this range. We've got to the vessel range of super yachts, defence vessels, up to OPVs, offshore patrol vessels, ferries, surveying vessels, so up to about 3,000 tonnes from about 70 tonnes. So, but now that we've done this, one of the things we're actually exploring is looking at what opportunities are available to us in smaller vessels. So we've got a lot of technology we've developed, a lot of expertise we now have, and we're now exploring and saying, well, now we have this experience and knowledge, is there an opportunity for us in the smaller end of the market where we believe we can build a gyro which is cheaper and more powerful, more technologically advanced, and to do that though we have to develop a better path to market. You imagine the volume of these is in the thousands, so distribution will be everything. And that's a study that we're currently doing at the moment, and we'll be we'll be presenting to our board later this financial year for them to be able to review. If you look at the technology we've got, that historically, as I mentioned earlier, that stabilizer fins have been used, but only in the super yacht market. They're generally not used in many other markets in terms of zero speed. There has been fins around for a long time on patrol boats and other commercial vessels that don't have to come alongside wharves and oil and gas platforms. But the problem is that they're not particularly efficient. In the case of super yachts, you can't go swimming when they're operating. They require the boats to be lifted on a regular basis for servicing. That makes them very expensive to maintain, and of course they produce a lot of drag. So for a commercial vessel, or for say a defence vessel, it's difficult to come alongside because of the stability of the patrol boat. They have to launch and recover vessels at 12 knots because of the lack of stabilisation at lower speeds, and their weapons are difficult to aim accurately. So it is difficult for light arms to operate as well. So currently we're the only operator in the large end of this market, and that's one of the reasons we chose the larger end. It's got a high barrier to entry, requires a high quality heavy duty unit. We felt that commercially we could manage the transactions that were required, and also we could get the right payment structures. that at that level of dollars, customers are used to paying for engines with deposits up front and final payments before they go. So it was a good business model for VEEM to take on. Okay, the next market, the next slide, please. Okay, to give you some idea of what we're talking about in terms of market, we looked at the moment where we're just going through and reviewing all of our expectations, and we've superyacht market, we've been able to complete our studies. You look at the superyachts being currently constructed, which is around 737 vessels. It's an addressable market for us of $273 million worth of gyro sales, and superyachts were expected to grow. So it's one of the most resilient sectors of the market. So you can just see in that market alone, there's an enormous potential for VEEM to be able to build a business on. And then we've got on top of that the wind farm market, the defence market, the oil and gas market, the ferry market. There's endless opportunities there for us. And we think certainly we'll have trouble fulfilling the need as the years to go by. And it's what we're seeing now in some markets in the world, people are simply not buying boats without gyros. Even in the smaller boats now, 100% of 40-foot Boston whalers in America that are a very popular sports fishing boat, 100% now fitted with gyros. And we think within 10 years, you simply won't buy a boat without a gyrostabilizer. The difference is so vast. Next slide, please, Simon. So to show you how we've been going, this graph is done in 6-month periods, and you can see the growth we're starting to see in gyros. And it took us a little while longer to get going in the beginning. We seem to have a pretty good pattern now, and every 6 months we seem to be attracting more orders. It seems to be more steady, and we'll certainly be able to service those requests with our new assembly hall. So we expect it to be a big growth driver for them going forward. The next slide, please. So already a recognised global leader, and we think we hold world's best technology in each of our products. We continue to look for ways of putting ourselves in a technology space where no one is. So we started off with our propellers, with the interceptor system, which enables us to tune our propellers without damaging our beautifully machined profile. And we've been able to take the speed of traditional monohull vessels with underwater propellers from a maximum of 35 to 38 knots before the propellers start to break down. We're now into speeds as high as 54 knots with the same configuration of propulsion, but using a fully CNC machined product. And we're well ahead of the rest of the world. So, and I think we have, I guess, an opportunity to build on that. So we continue to develop our manufacturing processes to make them cheaper and cheaper, because that's the goal for us, and also to keep adding perhaps features and add-ons. So for propellers, for instance, now we're looking further at the chain and shaft lines. So we're trying to value add to existing sales to build, but also with some innovative shaft line drive systems, which make us unique, to find advantages for our customers so that we can make them unique bespoke parts so that they can manage their spare parts process and build a better business for them. Next slide, please, Simon. Okay, underpinning all this, as I mentioned very early in the stage, we've had this precision engineering company, which is half of our turnover, more than half is defence related, which underpins our business and has for 30 years. We've been involved in the Collins class program since the late 80s, and we're also involved in numerous other defence related programs and will be involved in all the upcoming ones. So on nearly all of the naval platforms coming up, VEEM will be playing a role. This business is profitable, it comes with long-term agreements, and that is going to continue to be our local face and underpin our profitability. With something like a Collins class submarine, we've been doing it for 30 years. There's 30 years to go. And it's quite extraordinary to be involved in a program which exceeds your entire working life, but that's the beauty of defence. So we are continuing to, I guess, build our business on developing our own products whilst remaining with strong profits and business performance with our existing and historical business. And every year we continue to make profits, as we always have. I think that's probably a pretty good base for a high technology company, is to be able to put money into the research and development, grow these new products, knowing that it has the income to pay for it all. So we're not putting the owners of the company in a high risk position for their investment in a high risk position. Thanks, Simon. Next slide. So one of the things, a special mention, we announced the other day, we picked up a $9 million valve and associated components with ASC. This is a cyclical thing. It happens every 2 or 3 years for the major refits. But in between that, we've got a steady run of other valves coming through from the intermediate dockings and their IMAVs and ID. So they have an intermediate one and then a quarter cycle one. So we generally have $4 or $5 million of the valves a year coming through. So we can expect next financial year to have about $10 million worth of submarine valves, and the following year as well. And then it will drop off for a little while, then it will come back in a few years' time as the cycles continue. And this, as I said, will go right through till 2048 or perhaps beyond. So it comes with sensible payment terms. There's always a deposit, a 20% deposit on what we're doing, so it's good for cash flow. And it's terrific work that we've been doing for quite a while. So next slide, please, Simon. It's important to look at the history of where we've come from, and it doesn't show back there at the turn of the century we were goat herders, and there's a goat should be down that end. But in 1968, when our father started this business, he believed in manufacturing. So as soon as he was able to, he commenced manufacturing small lathes, and there's a centre lathes for turning metal. And he did that up until he passed away, and we did it for a little longer until the Japanese onslaught of cheap machine tools came through. But that desire to manufacture has been very strong in the company ever since that time. So we've worked very hard to, I guess, to realise that dream, and that's where we are now. Next slide, please, Simon. So we have large facilities, about 14,000 square metres worth of facilities now. We have areas such as dynamic balancing, CNC and manual machining. We have the largest non-ferrous foundry in Australia, industrial fitting. We have a research and development arm, centrifugal casting machines, and of course, the world's most advanced propeller manufacturing facility. And it's all in Canning Vale. It doesn't mean it has to stay in Canning Vale. For future development of our product, we can look around the world for assembly and test of gyros to be closer to market. But we've got it's like a mini city of capability running here in Canning Vale. So in a summary, we have our defence work remains on track. Unfortunately, with the coronavirus, our revenue earnings, we've had to withdraw our guidance, but currently we're still running, and we are considered to be an essential service in America. We don't know what Australia is saying at this stage, but we expect to continue to be running. We're just putting in the coronavirus protection for our staff and best practice. We've only seen a very small number of orders impacted to date, mostly in the propeller side of the business. So at this stage, what we're seeing is we'll continue on pretty much as normal. We have a pretty full order book. So we believe, in summary, we'll be cementing ourselves as a market leader in large gyros, and then looking at small ones. We'll continue to develop propellers through shaft line development. We'll be continuing developing our forever range of pipe, our wear pipe, and we'll continue on with our local face to continue to underpin the profitability of the business as we always have. So the future's looking very, very bright for us. Next slide, please, Simon. This is a snapshot of our corporate life. We haven't had a great downturn in our share price. There's not a lot of trading that goes on, but I think that we've got quite a resilient future, which means we will spring out of this, the predicted slowdown may not be much of a slowdown for us at all with our contracts. Next slide. That's the end of my presentation, people. If there's any questions you've got, please let me know.
You've done very well with the technical challenge that we've had on our side, Mark. Thanks for being so patient and being slick through presenting it all. You've answered the one question that we have submitted around being an essential service. So thanks very much for participating and bearing with us, and I hope everyone found it a really interesting presentation as I did.
Thanks, Simon.